All right, so thanks for joining us today for our MicroH Talks Technology webinar. My name is Maria Fiore. I'm the Director of Operations here for MicroH, and I'm joined today by Sergio Lima, Director of Customer Success for MicroH as well. Welcome, Sergio.
Hello, Maria. Hello, everyone.
So today's conversation will focus on creating a cyber resilient organization. But before we begin, just a few housekeeping notes. First of all, as you all noticed, all attendees are muted just to reduce background noise. We encourage you to ask questions throughout the presentation by using the questions panel of the webinar tool. The webinar is being recorded and the recording will be sent out later today or within the next 24 hours anyway for your review and to share with people you think would benefit from listening in. In the same email, you will receive a link to download the free ebook that we're making available to you. And if you would like a copy of the presentation, you can download it in the handout section of the webinar tool. Lastly, at the end of the webinar, you will receive a short 3-question survey. We want to gather your feedback. Your feedback is important to us, so if you can take a moment to answer the questions, that would be much appreciated. So before handing things over to Sergio, I'm going to take a moment to give a brief overview of who we are, and for those of you who may not know who we are. MicroH is a Canadian technology service provider with 40 locations across Canada. We've been providing IT services and solutions to our clients since 1981. We believe that for us to serve you properly, we need to understand your organization, your operations, your clients, your people, your goals, your challenges, your opportunities. Understanding all these things helps us recommend and provide the IT services and solutions that are right for you. So that's who we are and how we work with our clients. And I guess with that, Sergio, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Maria. Hello, everyone, and welcome. 43 years, Maria. I guess we could say we're pretty resilient throughout the decades.
You know what the fun part of that is? I've been in it for 34 of those 43.
Oh.
In one shape or another, like
Yeah,
yeah.
I got it. 27 for me, so yes, I feel you. All right, so today we're talking about boom. What does the boom mean? Left of boom, right of boom, what are you talking about? Well, the boom is a terminology meaning the incident. When the cyber incident, actually it's not really cyber incident, it's an army term, left of boom, right of boom. So left being focusing on identifying the possible risks and protecting your organization from cyber incidences by putting in place some controls and measures and mitigating those risks. And the right of boom refers to what happens after an event or a boom, including the detection, the response, the recovery efforts, and an analysis of what needs to be improved so you can better manage future risks, obviously. And for an organization to have a well thought out, balanced cybersecurity strategy, you have to look at both the right and the left. So you need to look at, how you can protect yourself, and you definitely need to look at how you will react and mitigate those and respond to those incidences. So whether you like it or not, there's a lot of you got to do both. Unfortunately, there's a lot of tools that focus on left or right, and a lot of tools that focus on both sides. So these are things that you have to take into consideration. So let's start with the left of boom. And governance. Now, governance isn't usually part of our 6 layers of security, but it's a fairly recent addition to cybersecurity conversations. But it's always been in the picture, when discussing cybersecurity strategy. So, now it has a name and everybody recognizes it. And the first step, obviously, in determining how the other areas will be developed, how it's going to be implemented, how it's going to be managed and supervised. So it focuses on establishing and monitoring your risk, the management strategy, setting your expectations, and developing your policies. And it enables you to ensure a continuous awareness of the risks, the priorities, and everything that's influenced by privacy-related risks. So you may be in industries that, have some compliancy, and it touches all area of cybersecurity, and it leads to a strategy that is resilient, as we always say. So let's start with, how do you get how do you start this off? Well, the first thing you need to do is identify your risk or identify the assets. And this is where, you know, where you identify things that need to be improved, or where you identify equipment, software, systems, data, facilities, services, your people, the data that's going in and out, your interactions, internal, external, your partners, your clients. You need to identify all of that and determine what is at risk and how you can implement specific solutions in place or processes and procedures in place, so you can, you know, to determine the likelihood that if any of these items or systems and solutions were to be compromised, and what's the impact of that compromise? What would it have as an impact on your people, on your data, on your revenue, on your systems, etc.? That's the
Sure.
first thing. Yes.
I was gonna say, would you say, like, I'm looking at the list, right? And
Hmm.
for the most part, I mean, you can identify equipment, software, although there could be stuff that, is hiding in a closet somewhere.
Yeah.
Um, but do you feel like data is one of those places where it's the hardest? Because you kind of have to follow the data, right? You have to
Yeah.
follow, where does it go, who handles it, where do they send it, what do they do with it, where do they store it, I mean, yeah, it just feels like that's one of the ones that's a bit more complex, I
The
guess, too.
key word you mentioned is they. Where do they store it and, use it and
They,
send
as
it?
in us
They being
users.
us and people and users. Yeah. So, your accounting department deals with the bank for data, with accounts and money and stuff. So what happens if you're compromised and you can't do that anymore? What happens? Right?
Mm.
That's a good example of a couple of them, actually. It's the data plus the services plus the people, or the data flows. You have to, take that into consideration, because when you are compromised, not if, um, you don't have the time. If you don't have an incident response plan, you don't have the time to figure out who does what. And then,
Well,
obviously,
you
there's
have the time, but like
yeah,
that means you're slowing everything else down, right? How
yeah,
quickly are you going to get back up, right?
exactly. Okay, so we've identified. Um, so let's stick to the left of boom. Let's what can we put in place to protect? Once you've identified these assets, you've looked at the risks, the compromising, what's the next step? Let's put in place some controls and measures to reduce or mitigate the risks. And what you see is a list of the usual suspects, the typical solutions and recommendations that all MSPs are recommending. Identity management, access management, patch management, multi-factor authentication, endpoint protection, antivirus, cybersecurity awareness. These are all examples. Firewalls. These are all examples of preventative measures, protection, so you can reduce that risk, and not leave yourself open for an instant attack, obviously. So these are all considered left side of an incident. Again, keep in mind protection, prevention, right? But there's some people that think that the detection portion should stay left, but the reality is, detection services are tools that allow you to continuously monitor and discover and analyze and give you indications of compromise, potential compromise, system anomalies, events that may suggest that there's a cyber incident, attack on its way or about to come. The detection is important for a successful incident response and recovery. Why? Well, because a lot of times you get asked what's going on. What has been going on for the past several weeks or months leading to this. It helps with obviously the diagnostics and trying to figure out what's going on, so you can better attack that incident and help. And a lot of people, we put EDR, endpoint detection and response, on the right of boom, and a lot of people would think, well, why? It's not right of boom, it's left. You're protecting your systems. But what EDR does is it's just designed to monitor and respond to a security incident. So they're like a police. So, our police are there to protect us, but we only use them when something happens, and we're calling them when something happens. So it's pretty much the same thing. An EDR, they're installed on the devices. They'll detect, they'll alert, they'll respond to potential security threats, and they can actually, stop malware, stop ransomware before it spreads. But they are technically on the right side of an incident, because it acts only when something is going on with your system. And the same thing would apply to persistent threat hunting, because a lot of tools have that. And there's solutions that scan a network for abnormalities, anomalies. These are solutions that sometimes involve humans, technicians that are reviewing these anomalies and determining if it's an actual problem. And then it gives you the ability to remove or quarantine some malicious files, etc. Now I'm going to skip over the SIM and go over to the SOC, because usually with persistent threat hunting, it involves some form of a SOC, which is a security operations center. So NOC is a network operations center. It's a bunch of people managing your network, but a SOC does the security side. So it's a people, process, technology, manage your security position. It's made up of a team of dedicated security experts that monitor your environment 24/7 and any possible issues. And also they can take action and remediate. And most of the time, a SOC, I mean, a lot of organizations don't really have the means to hire a bunch of SOC people and just leave them there. Very hard to retain. So what we do is we combine it with a SIM, security information and event management, which is the third point. That give you a centralized view. So the SOC will review the SIM, which is a centralized view of all your environment, physical infrastructure, virtual infrastructure, compares the alerts from all of the solutions that we saw left of boom, and then maybe uncover some patterns that may result in an incident that's on its way, that is, let's implement something to avoid that. It gives you quick action to prevent those incidences before they actually take root and cause serious damage. Okay. So sticking to the right of boom, let's go with an incident response. So once we've determined what we're putting on the left side, and we have some tools on the right side, let's define what an incident response plan is. So an incident response plan by design includes processes, procedures, and documentation that give you detail on how your organization detects, responds to, and recovers from a cyber incident. So it allows you to prepare, identify, mitigate the risks, threats, create your resiliency, so you can recover from an event efficiently in a time frame that's comfortable for you, or within what's acceptable for your business. So it's very important, and a lot of we get into situations with customers that don't have an incident response plan documented, and it's a fire, right? You're in a fire, everybody's in it, and all the information's in everybody's head, and everybody's individual. There's nobody in charge, and they're pretty much doing what they can, and a lot of times that causes more damage than anything else, or it extends the time it takes for you to come back from this environment. So I have a stat for you all. The Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity in 2023, there were over 70,000 reported cybersecurity incidences in Canada, and that's a 25% increase from the previous year. So what that means is, first of all, the incidents were for anywhere from malware to ransomware attacks to phishing scams, data breaches. It impacted all industries and sizes, government agencies, individuals from coast to coast. And I repeat, it impacted all industries and sizes, everyone. So we may think, we're small businesses, we're not vulnerable, they're not looking at us, they're looking at the big ones. But no matter what the size of your organization, the cybersecurity budget that you have, or the policies, or whatever services and tools you've put in place, that boom can happen to anyone. And I think it's just there's I guess an idea out there that the small businesses think they're not susceptible to being hacked. Why? Because all you hear in the news is the bigger corporations that are getting hacked, but that's because they are already in the public. And when you hear big companies falling victim to a cyber incident, that's all you see. You assume that it's only for larger enterprises, but everyone's in that same boat.
Well, I
So
think
it's
it's
very,
a little bit too like out of sight, out of mind, right? If you put some of these tools together, well, they're protecting you, so you don't see these things, right? So
yeah,
you tend to think, well, it's not happening. But like we're talking this morning, here, right? We put in a SIM, right?
yeah,
And it was amazing to watch all the drive-bys that we're going through, and they're trying to get into your firewall, and they're trying to get into this, and they're trying to, well, you have the protection, the layers that we
Yeah.
keep talking about, right? So
Yeah.
they don't come in, but it's kind of out of sight, out of mind, because you don't see them.
Yep.
So, I don't see them. They don't necessarily exist for me, but they
That's right.
do. You're just, you're lucky that you have the protections in place that stop most of these things from coming in, right?
Yeah. So
But
number one, it's important.
nobody's exempt, right? Nobody is
That's right.
excluded from this, right?
Yeah, and that's why it's important to have the protection or the preventive side, but it's also important to have an incident response plan, because that strategy makes all the difference. If it were to happen, then you have a plan and you can move forward with it. So what do we need to develop a plan? Well, you need to prepare first, right? So, it refers to the governance and the identification that we talked about before, right? So these elements help you identify, inform, protect you, look at strategies, look at areas that you need to fix, and then obviously develop your policy around that. The activities that will be included in the incident response plan need to be aligned with your response policy, with anything that's regarding compliance requirements. If you're in an industry that requires compliancy, you need to build an incident response plan policy that establishes authorities, roles, responsibilities for any of the activities that occur within that incident response, right? The procedures and the process and et cetera. You need to identify a team essentially for that. So, leading to the next slide, determine your response team, right? It's usually, it's important responsibilities. These are the people that will be responsible to assess and document and respond to the incident. These are the people that are in the fire, possibly restoring systems, recovering data, reducing the risks of the incident of happening again. But it's a team that includes employees of various qualifications, of maybe different departments that you need to have for support, and other business areas, so you can have the maximum collaboration, and hopefully, maybe they have input, and they maybe need to be advised of certain services or communication that needs to go out to your partners, to your customers. This team is, it may include, doesn't have to be only your employees. It could include people from outside organizations, your managed services provider, obviously for the technical side, right? The important part is that we've identified it, we've assigned somebody to it, and it's important to ensure that you have backups to these people, because maybe they're on vacation, so you just want to make sure that somebody can cover for the other person. Or you may have employees that leave, and then you'd have to train them again, or train this new person and put them back into the plan.
I'm just going to interrupt a minute. Sergio, I have somebody, Pam, is saying that she can't hear. Can you guys just put something in the chat or in the questions panel to tell me that you can hear us? Because I'm hoping that we're not talking and nobody's hearing us.
Testing.
But,
Testing.
yeah, I can hear fine, but Pam doesn't seem to be able to, and I just want to make sure it's not everybody. Oh, okay, so we're getting everybody, yeah, we're getting a lot of people saying I can hear. So, okay, thank you for confirming. I'm just gonna let Pam know, maybe she can log in and log out. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry. Trying to do tech support here.
That's okay. Give me a chance to take a little gum, because I got a dry throat. It's always the afternoon webinar that hits me. Okay, sorry about that. So, where was I? Yes, you can include the people from outside your MSP, lawyers, accountants, cyber insurance company, you name it. You can put everybody in this plan. Actually, it would be recommended to put all these people in the plan so that they're all made aware and everybody has their role. So let's build a communications plan. How do we do that? Obviously, communication is extremely important. It's critical in the success. You need to make sure that it's created in advance. That has all the details for your internal people. your external, such as your customers, communications. What message are you conveying? How will you communicate to your employees if something were to happen like this? What's your method of communication? As don't forget, if you do get hit with something, and let's say, Teams and your emails are down, how are you going to call all your employees? So it's very important to document this and figure out a way to communicate this information, or have at least documents that allow you to call certain people and say, this is going on right now. Please communicate to the rest of the employees. And the same thing goes for if you have clients and partners that you need to advise them. You want the same messaging going out. Again, because you don't want maybe possibly your employees saying information that might be false, or spreading panic, maybe, etc. These are things that actually happen, that we've seen happen with some of our customers. And which leads to, obviously, employee education, right? So the plan should be communicated to all your employees, so that everybody's on the same page, to avoid the miscommunications, the misunderstandings, and it should be revisited on a regular basis to make sure that it's still relevant, and the right people are there, and that it's up to date with the current landscape, I guess. And particular attention should be considered when an employee leaves the business. Like I said, make sure that there's a replacement, or if someone's on vacation, make sure there's somebody that's capable of taking over that person's position or role. And it should be repeated, because we're all humans, so we need to repeat things, I think, 7 times. You need to recommunicate this to your employees on a regular basis,
I think
whether you're
that's
updating
changed
or
to
not.
12 now that we have no attention span left. So
Oh, must be. I think it's the 7 seconds for like YouTube and TikTok and videos, like 7-second attention span.
yeah,
Yeah. So when you put that all together, did I miss a slide? I'm sorry, I'm just checking. Okay, we're good. So when you put that all together, this is, the development phases. Let's look at the preparation. So outline the goals of the incident response strategy, which is, your policies and procedures, the improvement of your security. So if you've identified certain things that need to be corrected, you need to fix those. Visibility of an incident and the recovery of an incident need to be clearly defined, which goes to your plan B, as in backup. Implement a reliable backup plan to help you restore your data. And, the typical backup rules apply. Making sure you have several copies of your backup, making sure that it's on different media, making sure that it's replicated offsite, and also making sure that it's replicated in a offline, so it's not connected to your network, so you always have that copy somewhere. So it's very important. And again, a lot of people think that a backup solution is left of boom because it's protecting you, but the reality is you only need it in the event of an incident, so it's right of boom. And ensure that you have a comprehensive strategy on patching, like whether you're doing it yourself, or your MSP is doing it for you. Make sure that we're updating the hardware and the firmware, make sure that we're updating operating systems and applications, and test your plan on a regular basis to make sure that it meets your expectations. Now, I'm not telling you to put in a virus and test it, but simulate something like that. It would be very good to do that. So moving to the observation side, monitor your networks. This is, ensuring that the left side is doing its job. So monitor your networks, your system, your devices for potential threats. Document any events or any potential incidents, things that maybe your technical team might find suspicious. Look at the occurrences to determine whether the incident response plan maybe needs to be activated. In some cases, it's one machine being infected or an entire network. Irrelevant. You need to have a plan that's in place, that's ready to go, for such events. And then on the resolution side, well, obviously, if you have good visibility, you'll understand the intrusions, right? You can apply the appropriate measures. You know where you're going. You can see. It may involve isolating systems if something happens, or suspending access to systems. Eliminate the intrusion by restoring it from your backups, obviously. Ensure that devices and systems are clean by running anti-malware or antivirus software. And document as much as possible, logs, reporting, preserve that evidence. Why? because a lot of times the cyber insurer will ask for this information. So the event, in the case of an event that happens, what we've seen with a lot of insurers is show me what has been going on for the past 3 months in your environment. And a lot of customers are not able to answer that. So you need to be able to show a pattern or something that's been going on or not going on, right? Because obviously in cyber insurance, they'll insure you, but they just want to make sure that, you've had the right controls and measures in place.
Like you didn't turn
Because
off MFA, for example.
exactly, exactly. And then the fourth part is the insight, right? Identify the root cause again during, write a boom, determine what can be improved to avoid a future incident. Um, Look at your procedures. Did it work? Look at your process. What went well, what needs to be improved. Document it, change it, communicate it. Um, and again, meticulously document the steps that were taken for you to uncover and to resolve the incident so that it could be reused for future incidences and not have to reinvent the wheel and not have to ask 1,000 people, what did you do last time? It's documented, right? So um, again, very important. You will document this in an electronic file that will be on a network that could be compromised. So please have printed copies of the incident response plan on hand. Because when that incident happens, your systems may be unavailable, down, whatever the case may be. So it's going to be very hard to get that electronic copy, and very important to have printed copies available for all stakeholders. And yes, it could feel heavy, daunting to create this. You just need to determine what areas will require external expertise. Um, it could involve assistance with experts on the outside. It could be legal counsel, insurance brokers, underwriters, communications, public relations, depending on your business. Um, you may need to involve all of these people, obviously.
So, Sergio, one thing you were talking about, plans and making sure that they're documented and up to date, and especially, sometimes when you're doing tests, you run into, during a simulation, something is not working, something either, needs to be changed or whatever. Make sure you're updating those, and again, you need to print them because, yeah, when you're in the
Yeah,
thick of things, when you're in a fire,
yeah,
it'll be hard to go find that, or you can't, it might be somewhere where you can't get to it. So
yeah,
it's important to make sure that that's updated as well. There's
yeah.
also one comment and actually a question. So Alain makes the point that in provinces like Quebec and even, Canada, whether it's PIPEDA, you have to report an incident, right?
Correct. Yeah,
So
that's right.
you have to keep that in mind. Then the more you have documentation and you know what happened and how it happened and all of that stuff, well, that makes a difference when you report it to the authorities.
Yeah,
But the question that Daniel asked, which is an interesting one, is so he says you prepare the plan, very detailed, everything's there, but how do you ensure that when you need it, it's used? And I guess that goes back to the roles and responsibilities, right? The
correct.
first one
Yeah,
that they put in there is incident manager.
yeah,
So that person is
that's right.
responsible for saying, hey, we have a plan. Here's a plan. Everybody, turn to page one and
There you go.
look at or whatever page is your responsibility and then use that, right? That's why you're supposed to
Yeah,
have an incident response team, right?
yeah.
And maybe your incident manager is also your tech lead. Like, I mean, it depends on the size of your business and stuff like that. I mean,
Hmm.
you can have multiple responsibilities under one person, but I think it's really important that somebody drives it, that there's someone in charge of the incident, right?
The most important piece of the puzzle is the incident manager. And in many cases, everybody's running around with their heads cut off and nobody's in charge. And that's the worst thing you can have. So yes, you need somebody who is steering the car or the boat
Driving.
or driving the car, you name it. You need to have someone in charge who's following that plan and telling people what to do. I mean, it doesn't have to be somebody who, it could be a technical person, but if that technical person's in the middle of, looking and diagnosing and trying to figure out what to do, it's kind of hard for other people to ask, what do I do next? What do I do next? What's the next thing? So usually an incident a manager is just someone who's making sure that everybody else is doing what they should be doing.
It's funny, Daniel asked that same question, so he says thanks for answering that. That question
Oh,
is,
you're
does
welcome.
it have to be somebody technical? And no, it, you know, you're
Most
right.
of the time, it's
If
not.
they're
Yeah.
resolving a problem, it's hard for them to manage everything, right? So
Most of the time, it's not because I mean, not because all technical people don't know, what's going on within their business. But if you have a technical person, sometimes they're not aware of the business aspect, and vice versa, right? So it's always good to have someone who is just there asking the right people and making sure that they follow what they should be doing.
almost like a project manager.
Pretty much, yeah. And you don't have to build or deploy this incident response plan alone. Obviously, there are micro-age locations that possibly have expertise in-house for that. And there are also micro-age locations that have partners with security experts that can put that in place for you. So we use our location as an example. We used our cybersecurity partner to implement our cyber incident response plan here internally. So it wasn't even our own internal people, but now we have different people of the business that are all involved, and we're ready to go in case something happens. Everybody's involved, including our third party cybersecurity expert, because we need them involved for remediation and threat hunting and discovering and everything else. So many webinars have passed with this 6 layers of security that we've talked about, uh, but we could say it's 7 layers now because of the governance that we have to do and the incident response plan that you have to put in place, because you got to make sure that all of this works. Maria has been kind enough to color code the previous layers, right? So
Use my highlighter.
everything that is green is left of boom. So identification, prevention, protection. Everything that is right of boom is more of a detection, incident response, backup, recovery, analysis, and learning. Um, and a well thought out, strong, balanced cybersecurity strategy needs to incorporate both the left and the right. We have no choice, right? And services, tools, plans, all of that will strengthen your organization, and your security posture will improve, and your cyber resiliency will improve as well. Um, so, we're a proponent of a layered cybersecurity approach, which looks like always, a little bit of left and a little bit of right, and we're good. So that's what we've been preaching for many years now. Yeah. I don't know if there were any other questions or any comments. I have
Yeah,
gone to the ebook section.
there is a question.
Yeah.
So regarding the ebook, I'm going to put the link in the chat. So I mentioned before that we're going to have the recording go out to you either later today or in the next 24 hours. But if you want to download the ebook, which kind of summarizes what we just talked about, you can. The link is in the chat, and you can copy it and go ahead and download that. But we did have a question from Peter, who says, what would you suggest for nonprofit orgs with less than 5 staff to address cyber resilience?
Good question.
Yeah,
Um, I know there's a lot of reading you can do online. There's sort of like
yeah.
self-taught types of topics. There's a lot of entities out there that explain how you as a business can put something in place. It doesn't have to be complex. Um, and I think I guess that's the only recommendation I would have. I mean, other than speaking to a micro-age location, and yeah, I understand that it becomes tougher when your
Smaller.
organization's, yeah, exactly. It doesn't have to be that comprehensive either. I mean,
Yeah, it
if you're
doesn't have to be
five
4,000
employees,
pages long. Yeah.
exactly. If you're 5 employees, I mean, you can't expect to find 5 other people to be part of your group, right? I mean, maybe one person can hold several hats. Maybe on your
And then
IT side, you could just make sure you have your service provider with you.
yeah, you may call upon, you might have a legal help, that can help you on that side. You might need, if you already have a communication on staff, somebody who runs communications on staff, that's great. But otherwise, you can consult with somebody who can do that piece of it for you.
Yeah,
But in terms of creating it, I would say, Sergio, yeah, when you're smaller and
yeah,
these things are not like these are, sometimes like it took a long time to put it together,
It
and
did, yeah.
it could be cost prohibitive for some organizations. So yeah, working with your MSPs, looking online, some of them have templates now. They're, again, you have to customize it to your own needs,
Yeah,
but it
there's a
could
way to
be a
start
really
with
good
some
way to
form of template, yes.
yeah, exactly,
A couple
exactly.
of searches will get you some stuff. I could make a suggestion. I'm not sure if you're already with a cyber insurer, but when you speak to the right cyber insurer,
Yes.
they have an incident response team, um, and they may be able to offer that service for you if something goes wrong. So they can have some of those roles and responsibilities. So the minute something happens and you communicate with them and their team kicks in, and they're pretty much the incident manager. So they're going to be telling you what has to be done. And I've seen it at some of our customers. We've actually become one of those roles, and the incident manager is a cyber insurer who has given it to a security firm, which is their partner, and they're pretty much dictating what has to be done. Now we're turning this off. Now we're looking at this. We're doing diagnostics. Hey, Mr. MSP, can you do this for me right now? And we get it done. Okay, we got it done. Next. Okay, communications person, please communicate this to your employees or communicate to your clients that such and such is happening. I've seen that at some of our customers. So it doesn't necessarily have to be you as a business owner or a decision maker making the calls. It could be your cyber insurer that has that portion set up for you.
So Christine asked, do we have a sample policy available? We don't, simply
I
because,
don't. Yeah.
again, there exist templates on the internet and you can find them, but we don't, because they're very customized, right? They're very specific to an organization depending on, what they look like. So sorry about that, Christine. All right. Not seeing any more questions, but please, go ahead and put them in the questions panel if you have any other questions. But in the meantime, I did want to thank everybody for joining us today. We encourage you to download the ebook and reach out to your local microage with any questions. And we did have another question. So Cindy is asking, Desjardins, no, sorry, that's LA. Does MicroAge offer cybersecurity training on a yearly basis?
Yes, if you're talking about the phishing and training campaigns where for cybersecurity awareness, yes, we do. So we fish your employees. We look at the results. We see what's going on. We fish them on a regular basis for an entire year, 12 months worth, um, systematically at different times. Not everyone at once. We get the results, and then we plan training sessions. There's content online that all your employees have to log in and follow, and you can follow their progress and see if they're listening. And there's questions and answers and all of that stuff. And the goal is to reduce the number of clickers because we're going to try and catch them on a fish, to lead to one of our webinars, right? Catch a fish. And then the goal is to educate them with content that gets them a bit more aware, desensitizes them, and they're aware of what's going on instead of, before clicking on certain things or before sending files and sharing files, lets them it reminds them of, these are the steps you need to take, or precautions you need to take to make sure that it's a legitimate email or it's a legitimate transfer of data or a conversation you're having with someone who you think is an employee or a client or a partner, but in fact it's a fish. But yes, we do. We offer that.
So I wanted to mention too, Alain makes a good point. So that Christine, we were talking about, and everybody else, when we were talking about templates, sometimes your provincial government or even the Canadian government, the cybersecurity, what
Yeah.
was it called? The Cybersecurity Center or something,
The Canadian
Canadian cyber.
Cybersecurity Center. Yeah. Yeah.
They may have templates, or they may have posted templates on their websites that you can work off of as well. So that might be another option. Peter asked, do you allow view-only access to EDR portal for MicroAge customers? Like that?
Our location does not. I don't know if the other locations do. We don't. We manage the EDR, so technically it's not an EDR. We're selling an MDR because we're managing it. And no, we don't allow our customers to see that portal because it makes them panic. it, it makes them panic, and then they call us. It's like, what's going on? I see yellows, but it's different levels of alerting that we get, and false positives. Some of them are critical, some of them are not. Some of them are, they're fixed, they're quarantined. So in our documents, we outline, that we take care of it. These are the steps. This is the process. This is what we're doing for things that are not critical. This is what we're doing for critical. We're contacting this person, that person. We're mitigating it in this way. We're resolving it in this way. It's all documented, so that we don't have to, give view-only access to our customers on the EDR. I see it as it's our job to, it's my expertise, right? We have people that are expert in that. I don't expect our customers, they have, another line of business. I don't expect them to be attempting to try and mitigate or assume something when we've been doing this for years. Trust us.
So Peter, as Sergio said, for his location, they don't. You might want to, if you're a current customer of MicroAge, you might want to ask, or if you're thinking of going with that
Yeah.
MicroAge, you might want to ask the question. Maybe there's a reason, that you want to see it, but
it may
I
be
mean,
a co-managed opportunity as well, right? You may,
yeah.
I mean, we have customers as well. We have customers that are fairly large enough that have their own IT people. They didn't want all of our managed services, but liked the tools and liked our expertise. So we're sharing the responsibility. And in that case, yes, they have access to the EDR, but they are also the people that are responding to the EDR alerts as well. So, determine your black and white, who does what. But in most of our EDR solutions, we manage it. Don't worry, here's your reporting. This is what's going on. But we do have customers in a co-managed model that have access and are actually doing the response on that side themselves, and just calling us if they need help.
Okay. Again, if there's any other questions, put them on there. I keep looking at my screen to make sure I didn't miss anything. But I also wanted to mention before we do let everybody go, if there's no other questions, that our next MicroAge Talks Technology webinar is June 13th. We will have a legal expert join us, and he'll speak about what we were talking about before, the governance issues that are raised by the protection of personal information and AI, and why organizations must have to address the governance piece. So look for the invite shortly. So I'm just going to check the questions panel one more time in case I missed something, and then it doesn't look like I did. So with that, thank you very much, Sergio. Always great to have you on.
Thank you, Maria.
And thanks to all of you for spending time with us today. And we wish you a great rest of the day. And we hope that this was a valuable use of your time. Thank you.
Everyone.